Hi, welcome to another episode of Crizzy Books. I'm Crizzy or Criz, but only my homeboys call me Criz. And today I'm going to be doing a review for Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said, by Mr. Philip K. Dick. In Flow My Tears, we follow our main character, Jason Taverner. He is a very rich and famous TV show host, kind of like a variety show or late night talk show. The setting that we're in is a near future police state. People get sent away to labor camps all the time for not having the right, identification or credentials and just all kinds of things. It's very easy to get sent away to things like that. So we're talking about a pretty gnarly police state dystopia. Jason, however, because he's rich and famous, doesn't really have to worry about this. He is also what is referred to as a six, which we don't really know what that means at the beginning, but towards the end we find out that these are genetically modified humans. They're a little sharper in the senses. They're smarter. They have more charm. They're just in general a better version of a regular human being. After a filming of one of his TV shows, he gets a call from one of his exes. She seems distraught. She needs him. And so he goes over to her apartment. And when he gets there, she throws this alien tube-like thing at him, which sucks onto his chest, and he pours whiskey on it and it dies, but apparently whatever it was injecting into him or sucking on him, whatever, is still in him. He passes out, and then he wakes up, and he doesn't know where he's at. And as he starts exploring around, he quickly learns that no one knows who he is. Mind you, he is wildly famous. We're talking Jimmy Fallon. We're talking Regis Philbin levels of fame here. Everybody knows who this guy is, but wherever he's at, no one knows who he is. He has no ID. He's got nothing. So he finds somebody to direct him to someone who could maybe potentially help him. This girl, Kathy, she makes fake IDs, credentials, whatever he needs to get through checkpoints and things like that. So she does that. She whips that up for him. He gets kind of ratted out by the man who brought him to Kathy, and it gets taken into the police station where they're trying to confirm his identification. He tells them that he's this guy that they've pulled up that matches, what his IDs say, but the name is a little different. He doesn't really recognize that and thinks that they don't either, but they do. They know that he's lying about who he says he is. So they let him go, and they're tracking him. And what they come to find out is that he actually has no records at all. He's essentially a ghost. He doesn't exist, which is really crazy in this heavily policed society that they live in. And they're pretty perplexed by this. The police general, Buckman, is incredibly interested in who this guy is, who he's working for. How is he able to get all of his records wiped from every police database? Now, the whole time that this has been going on, he's also been contacting people that he knows, his current girlfriend, his agent. He contacts these people and is like, hey, you got to help me. And they're like, we don't know who you are. Leave me alone. Stop bothering me. After leaving the police station, he heads to Vegas where he meets up with an old fling from his reality, his world. And they shack up together. And then the police end up showing up and taking him back into custody. And again, because he has no records, they can't figure out who he is or how he did all of this. And he's telling them, listen, I don't work for anybody. I'm not a terrorist. I'm not doing anything. And they're like, okay, well, you can go again, but we're going to track the ever-loving hell out of you. And so they implant, trackers in him. And if he tries to do things, a bomb will go off in his head and all this stuff. So he leaves. Buckman has a sister. Her name is Alice. She's a little bit different from him, not a cop. She meets up with Jason as he's leaving the police station and says, hey, come with me. I'll take those trackers out of you. Also, I love you and I love your music. And he's like, what are you talking about? You know my music. And she has LP records of his. She takes all the trackers out. They go back to her house and she gives him a drug and he starts tripping out. And then eventually he finds her body in the bathroom, but she's a skeleton. So Alice is dead. He flees the scene and ends up meeting another woman, a neighbor next door who is a potter. They go out to dinner. He starts meeting more people who recognize him and who know him. And his music is on the jukebox in the restaurant. And they're playing it and everybody's singing along. And so something's happening. His reality is coming back to him. But because Alice was found dead and they knew that Jason was there, Buckman is now after him and has pinned this murder on him. But essentially what is happening is that Jason's reality is now merging with this weird alternate reality where he doesn't exist. And things start becoming more normal for him, and all this weird nonsense starts kind of going away and petering out. Throughout this whole story, he doesn't have credentials. He doesn't exist. But then all of a sudden he does. And they're finding out that he's not a criminal. He has no records of anything. We got to just let this go. Buckman eventually just says, screw it. Everything just kind of goes back to the way that it was for Jason in the beginning. Yeah, it's really out there and really weird, a little confusing, but I really enjoyed it. This is my 4th PKD book that I've read. And I mean, I gotta say, I really can't get enough of this guy and his work. It is just so weird and philosophical. And I love that in really any type of genre, but in science fiction, I really love it because just because it's sci-fi doesn't mean you can't kind of do whatever you want. If I can shoot fire out of my fingers, that's magic until science can explain what's actually happening there. So I really like how weird and out there PKD gets with his sci-fi. And man, this one just flowed. It takes no time in setting itself up and getting into the meat and potatoes. And I really had a hard time putting it down. Like other PKD books that I've read, this one has a lot of the same settings and themes. Things like anxiety, identity, surveillance, drugs, mind-bending reality stuff. And a lot of the characters that Jason interacts with are really great and leave us with some pretty deep and philosophical conversations, especially Ruth in the hotel room. She talks a lot about love and grief, and it's really powerful. And the book as a whole, there's a lot of just really beautiful and emotional moments scattered throughout it. I really, really liked it. Also, Ruth talks about a dog dying, and lately, like every book that I've been reading, a dog dies somehow. I think I'm going to actually make like a dog body counter, so we'll just put that here somewhere. It's going to be there. So put that one on the board. I'm also learning that Philip K. Dick doesn't have a very positive outlook on the future of the world and society at large. His futures are very bleak, dystopian. They usually are always some form of a police state with heavy surveillance. There is a part where the police are trying to track down Jason in Vegas. And they go into the room that is next to the room that he's actually in, and they find a man in bed with a minor. That doesn't matter because apparently the age of consent laws have changed to be 13, which is crazy. But in a world like this, where corruption runs rampant and all of these horrible things are going on, it's not surprising at all. And the cops who are in there are even commenting on how like messed up this is. But that's the law. There's nothing we can really do about it. And the ending is such a trip. And it's really hard to grasp even. But I liked it. I just have so many questions and I'm confused about a lot of it. Like, who is Alice? I know that she's Buckman's brother, but like, who is she? How does she actually know who Jason is? Has she taken this drug and been in his actual reality? Is she on the drug when she meets him and is like, oh, like kind of mixing with his original reality? Does her dying put Jason back in his own reality? And then even going back to the beginning, like, what happened? How did he get here in the first place? We never find out. What was this alien sucker thing that his ex threw onto him? What happened there? Was it a similar type of drug that put him in a different reality that he was unaware of? Does it do its own thing where it puts you in a different reality? So many questions there. I have no idea. And also just what happens to the people within this reality now that has merged with his, like Buckman. Buckman kind of just bucks off and drifts away. He gets into his car and just kind of drives out into the middle of nowhere, and he meets a man at a gas station late at night and helps him out and hugs him. They become friends, and that's really how the book ends. It's all just so weird, and I'm just so confused about, like, okay, what happens? They all kind of stop their pursuit of him and don't really care anymore. A lot of unanswered questions, a lot of muddy threads, but I still really like this book. Overall, I'm going to give Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said a 4 out of 5. Very solid 4 out of 5. If you like your sci-fi really out there and super weird, I highly recommend reading this. It is just, it's crazy. But what do you think? Have you read Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said? What do you think about it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Sound off in the comments below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and as always, thank you for watching. Bye. Mwah.